I met Fritz many, many years ago at the Barrel of Laughs Comedy Club in Oak Lawn, and I believe that's where Fritz will tell you he cut his teeth in comedy and learned how to be a comedian. And while he was studying that craft, he was also the bartender too. So he would be tending bar, and then when it was his turn, he would run up and do his set, and then go back behind the bar. And there was this guy, Bill Brady. Who's heard of Bill Brady? Bill was the host there, and he would always bring Fritz up the same way. Last time I saw him, he was at the bar. Here he is. So that's probably the best way to bring him up. Mr. Fritz Nothnagel, ladies and gentlemen.
Give it going for Mike and Brian, everybody. That was Mike and Brian. Two of my absolute favorites. This has been a joy. Thanks to everybody for coming out. Wow, what a diverse fan base I got. This is a lot of white. Thank you, white people. Wow. Thanks, Robbie, for showing up and at least being part of it. Woo! Mercy. All right. Thank you guys very much for coming. It's going to be fun. Let's get into some new stuff, and then I'll give you some classics. I think that'd be great. All right. I'm excited. I lost a bunch of weight. I'm down just over 50 pounds. Feeling good about that thing. Yep. I found out 50 is the number people give a shit about. That's what I found out. When I was at 30, people were like, you'll be fat again. We could see it. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have the willpower to stick to it. But yeah, once I reached 50, people started to care. People asked me how or why I wanted to lose the weight. I was like, well, that's pretty simple. My wife is younger than me and hotter than me. Yeah. So I was like, well, she's already willing to sleep with an old guy. I don't want to make her bang a fat guy, too. You know what I mean? Like, that seemed rude. Didn't seem considerate of her. People ask how I lost the weight. That was pretty simple. I gave up sugar. And when I gave up sugar, I didn't realize how many things had sugar in them. It was kind of a dumb move on my part. I just thought if I gave up cookies and ice cream, I was good, all right? But I did a little research. Turns out there's sugar in a lot of things I love. So I was like, well, I can't give them all up. So I made a bracket of all my favorite sugars, all right? Turns out there was about 64 of them, all right? So I had the March Madness of sugar going on. And there were some Cinderella stories, all right? I wasn't expecting mashed potatoes to be there in the Final Four, but there they were. It was shocking, all right? Mashed potatoes was a surprise, and so was pasta. I didn't expect that to still be around, but it was there. And they went against the favorites, beer and bread. All right, those were the two favorites, and they made it to the final. That's pretty clear. And in the final game, I was like, man, yeah, I don't even know who's going to win this one. This is going to be a tough competition. And then I got drunk and made a sandwich. That's how that one ended. I was like, all right, I'm going to call that one a draw. Call that a draw. Started exercising. That helped me lose the weight too. Since May 1st, 2018, I've done sit-ups and push-ups every day. And since May 8th, 2018, I've had hard nipples. All right, I don't know if they're related, but it's a fact. They're up always, always. You know what I mean? Like, I try to wake up before them. I can't. They're already up, and I feel a lot of you trying to see, and that's not nice, all right? Like, that's why I'm wearing a sweater right now, you creeps, all right? Like, I covering them up on purpose because I don't want to poke anybody's eye out. I don't like exercising, but I do it, you know? People are like, oh, don't you feel so good? No, I don't. Like, once I was like, oh, cool, I got 23 hours and 40 minutes before I have to do that shit again. That's nice, that felt good. But other than that, I was like, I don't feel good about it. Like Mike said, I tended bar for a long time. Probably, I don't know, 10, 12 years, something like that. It was funny, when I first started attending bar, I really thought, like, oh, that first time I'm going to have to cut somebody off and say the party's over. I'm like, that's going to be the worst day as a bartender. And then that day came, and it wasn't that bad. You know, I was like, this dick has to go. So here's what happened. Guy spills his drink, all right? That happens, all right? So without even asking, I just set him up with a new one, all right? And then when he goes to take a sip of that one, spills it all over himself. I was like, all right, buddy, you're cut off. That's it. I can't help you, you know? The guy gets up mad. He's like, you think you're better than me? I'm like, today? Yes, absolutely, I do. I do think today, for sure. I don't know about tomorrow, but today, for sure. Definitely think I'm better than you. I'm like, I've handled everybody's drinks in here, and I haven't spilled one, all right? I'm like, you've only touched yours, and you've already spilled one on you. That's pretty bad. And as he's stumbling toward the door, he looks at me. He's like, you know what? You're a cocksucker. I'm like, no, I'm not. I was like, I am not that nice, you know? I'm like, I literally think that's the nicest thing you could do for somebody. And how that ever became an insult, I don't understand. I don't get it. Nobody's ever been mad while that's happening. You know what I mean? Like, another blowjob, this is terrible. It just should be a compliment, you know what I mean? People are like, oh, what do you think of Brian? Oh, that guy, salt of the earth. Real cocksucker, that guy. I love him. Love him. He's such a cocksucker. I love him. It's ridiculous. I'm married. It's going awesome. My wife is here tonight, actually, listening to me. We've been married for, this August will be 16 years, and people are like, oh, what do you think has kept it so great? And I will tell you this, it's because we share everything, all right? We share everything except money and blankets. Those are the two things that we won't share, and that's kept it wonderful, all right? People are always amazed that we don't share money. They're like, really? You don't share money? I'm like, no. They're like, if your wife needs money, she would have to borrow it. I'm like, yeah, that's how money works. You know what I mean? Has she ever borrowed money from me? No, she's good with her money, all right? Have I borrowed money from her? Absolutely, all right? And she always makes sure I pay her back, all right? Like, she will remind me. One of her friends, she's like, I would never marry a man that wouldn't share his money with me. I'm like, yeah, that's why you're single. That's the reason right there. That's the only reason what did it. We don't share blankets, that's a fact. Here's what happened. The first week we lived together, my wife, she woke up freezing, all right, every morning, all right? And on like the day that this all came to a head, I wake up, and I don't know how long she's been awake, but she's just staring me in the face, you know what I mean? That uncomfortable feeling, like, oh, shit. So I wake up, and she's just staring at me. I was like, oh, morning. She's like, is it? All right. Let's have a chat. I was like, all right. What do you got on your mind? She's like, I am freezing. I'm like, all right, I can tell. Looks like you've been doing some push-ups. She's like, you have stolen the blankets every night this week. I'm like, all right, probably guilty, all right? But you do know that I did it while I was asleep, right? I'm like, you do know that no point this week have I woke up in the middle of the night, said, watch this bitch freeze, and then rolled in the blanket, all right? That happened while I was unconscious, all right? So I'm going to plead innocent on this one. I'm like, you know what will solve this? Right now, it will solve this. I'm like, I'm going to get you your own blanket. She's like, really? You would do that for me? I'm like, absolutely. I'm like, can I borrow $40? So I think I can get a decent blanket for about $45. My wife has celiac disease, if you don't know what that is. She can't have gluten, and that's in a lot of stuff. So it's funny when we're at a restaurant, she'll ask for something gluten-free, and every server so far has said this. She's like, "Oh, is it a preference or is it an allergy? What are you gonna do different?" You know what I mean? Like, if she says it's a preference, you're just gonna fuck with her food. Be like, "Oh, this bitch thinks she's fancy. Let's put some gluten in it. See how she likes it." I found out recently a quickie is not always a bad thing. I didn't know that. All right. Everybody else knew it but me. Okay, I don't give a shit. Still going through with the joke. I had what I thought was a poor performance recently. All right. I could only compare it to an overexcited teenager is what happened. All right. Afterwards, my wife was in a glow, so proud of herself. I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." She's like, "Don't be sorry. I feel like a rock star." I'm like, "Because I'm a loser? Is that why?" She's like, "No, I love that you can't hold back." I was like, "Well, if I knew I was being timed, I would have got this shit over with a long time ago." You know what I mean? Like, why don't you tell me this 15 years ago? You know what I mean? I would have been in and out all the time. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know I was at the combine, working for a good time. My wife and I got invited to a reveal party recently, and I was like, "Man, I don't want to go." I'm like, "We didn't care what we were having. Why do we care what they're having?" She's like, "No, but we're going." I'm like, "But I don't want to go." She's like, "But yeah, we're going to go." I'm like, "All right." I was like, "If we're going to go, I have to pick a team, all right?" She's like, "There's no teams, all right? Don't make this a thing, all right? We're going to go, and they're going to cut a cake, and you're going to cheer." I'm like, "No, I can't do it without the opportunity to boo, too, I'm like, "We only have girls, all right? Let's go teen girl, all right? I will dress head to toe in pink, and if they blow up some blue firework, I'm going to boo that shit so hard, like, boo. I hate wieners, you know what I mean? Like, I've had one for years. They're the worst. Jess, are you in the room? Thanks. Can I get another drink whenever somebody's available? Thank you. My wife did this awesome reveal where she had a human burst out of her vagina. It was incredible. You know what I mean? It was such a cool reveal. I've tried to forget it. It's there. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, "Oh my God, it's pink. It must be a girl." You know what I mean? So, it's so incredible. I'll tell you one of the things that I'll miss when I'm done with this show is the traveling that comes with comedy. That's the best part of comedy is all the travel you get to do. Yeah, it's wonderful. I'll miss airports the most. It's like they put all my favorite people in one place. It's the best. Like they're franchised at every airport, Mr. and Mrs. Speakerphone are at every airport, and I love those guys, I was waiting at my gate, and a guy, plenty of seats all around, but the guy sits right across from me, and he's talking on a speakerphone. Eventually, I just jumped in, you know what I mean? And started chatting with him, I was like, he's like, "Do you mind?" I'm like, "Not at all. I don't mind at all. I was kind of lonely, so thanks." And he was like, "This is a private conversation." I'm like, "No, it's not. That's up here. You know what I mean? This is a private conversation. This is you're an asshole. You know what I mean? This is you're just talking on a speakerphone like a dick." Oh, thank you so much. appreciate it. This is one of my favorite things that's ever happened at the airport. All right. I think it's weird to talk to somebody while you're on the throne anywhere, but this guy was on his speakerphone on the throne, all right, just chatting away, all right? And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, what an asshole. I should make a ruckus. Then I was like, then I thought to myself, well, you don't have to hang out in here. Just get done what you need to and get the hell out of here. And I was like, that's probably smart, all right? So I wash my hands, and I go to dry them off, and the hand dryer in there, I think it was one of the jet engines that couldn't quite get off the ground anymore, but would dry the shit out of your hands, all right? So that's what I think they had in there. So I put it in there, and the guy had to stop talking because this thing was so loud, all right? And then I pull my hands out, and he starts chatting again. I was like, it was still a little wet, you know what I mean? Shove him back in there. And he starts talking again. I'm like, you know, I don't want to shake him off. That's unsanitary. You know, so I shove my hand back under there. And he's screaming. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm drying my hands, which isn't weird in the shitter, all right? Talking on your phone is, you weirdo. So dumb. And I'll say this, normally I love when women choose to travel without their bra, all right? I will say that. But recently at Midway, there was a woman I just felt bad for, you know? Like, I was like, oh, those are too big to not be wrapped up, you know what I mean? I'm like, that's gotta be painful, you know? Like, they are way bigger than D's or E's, you know? They had been like G's, because the second I saw them, I'm like, geez. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I thought the second I saw her. They were so big. And I was like, maybe she couldn't get through TSA, you know what I mean? Because they're like steel belted or something like that. And I was like, I don't even know. They're so big. It's so ridiculous. I'd like to get rid of molesting. Yeah. I mean, of course, the whole thing, but the word. I don't like the word. I think it sounds too cutesy for what it really is. You know, some people just hate a word. You know, like some people hate moist or panties or cunt. You know what I mean? Like people hate words. Like that's how I feel about molesting. As a guy who suffered sexual assault as a kid, I can tell you molesting is more offensive than look at the moist panties on that cunt. You know what I mean? I could tell you that. So get rid of that one. Tell you guys about my first arrest. I wish I had a cool story to brag about. Mine was pretty stupid. I was in northern Wisconsin, and I got arrested for feeding the birds. All right? And the cop was being a real dick about it. He's like, there's no way in hell a bird is going to eat a half-eaten Big Mac you launch out your window. I'm like, whatever, dick. You can't know that for sure. There's seeds on the bun, asshole. You know what I mean? Like I see him eating those all the time. Maybe he's coming back for the rest of the burger. I don't know. It's a big sandwich and a little bird. My neighbor's got his house up for sale. He's got the big sign on the front lawn that says for sale by owner. I always love that. Because do we need the by owner part on there? You know? Don't we assume you own the house if you're selling it? You know? Like, you didn't have to own the house to sell it. I'd have sold the asshole's house a long time ago. You know what I mean? Sign on the front lawn, for sale by neighbor. Yeah. Get off my block, dick. I don't like you. I never did get along with him. I'll say that. He's one of these guys that's obsessed with his lawn, and I'm just not that guy. I know there's plenty of guys here that love their lawn. I just don't give a shit. You know what I mean? The first day I moving in, he wanted to talk grass with me. I'm like, wrong kind of grass. You know what I mean? Like I will talk some grass, but not that one. You know. He's like, oh, I see you got some chickweed. What are you going to do with that? I was like, I'm going to mow it. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to mow it, and then I'm going to wait like a week. And I'll probably mow it again. You know what I mean? Don't give a shit. I'm like, let's change it up. How about sports? You like sports? He's like, oh, do you watch the Masters? I'm like, oh, you love golf. Of course you do. It's got yard work in it. Stupid. I got a rake. No thanks. It's a dumb sport. So dumb. I had a raccoon move under my house recently. That's the response it deserves, really. It's shock terror because it turned into an ordeal. I'll tell you this, I don't have a crawl space, all right? It just somehow decided to live under my floorboards, all right? Here's what happens. My wife hears some scratching, all right? And I don't. So I was like, you're hearing shit. There's nothing going on, all right? And then a week or two goes by, and then I did hear it. I was like, ah, shit. I can't unhear it. You know what I mean? Like, she was right. This is the worst. So I called animal control, all right? And the guy comes out, and he's like, well, if it's in the house, there's nothing I can do. I was like, well, good news for you. It's under the house, all right? So maybe you can do something. And he said, you know what, it's probably a cat. There's a lot of stray cats in this neighborhood. It's probably a cat. I'm like, I know what meow sounds like, asshole. All right, like, this isn't a cat. This is a goddamn raccoon. All right, and I want it out from under my house. And he's like, yeah, I can't help. It's probably a cat. I was like, whose job is it to pick up all the cats around here? Are you bragging about what shitty job you do? You know what I mean? Like, maybe grab a cat on your way out since you're not going to help me. So I had to call a private company, all right? I call a private company, and I was suckered in, all right? Because this guy shows up in a beat-up old van, all right? And he's got, like, dirty overalls on, and he's got, like, a coonskin hat, you know what I mean? So I'm trusting this dude right away. I was like, he probably speaks raccoon, all right? I mean, like, he's going to negotiate a settlement where I just have to give him tuna every once in a while, and he agrees to leave. This is going to work out perfectly, all right? That's not what happened. He set traps, and over the next week, we ended up catching 7 raccoons, all right, and 4 opossums, all right? Not a single one of them lived under my house, all right? It's just neighborhood shit that this guy is catching, all right? After the 3rd trap, I started to make sure he was showing up with empty traps. You know what I mean? Like, this dude's just showing up and charging me $80 a pop. Oh, like, I hate this guy. Why did I trust him in his raccoon hat, all right? So after a little bit of this, I was like, you know what? I just got to take matters into my own hands. I'm smart. I know that raccoons are night hunters, all right? So I'm going to wait till it's really late, and they're out hunting, and then I'm going to board up the hole, all right? And then, that was it. So I waited till it was late, all right? It was almost 8:30, 8:45, all right? And I go out there and I board up the hole, all right, which is the dumbest thing I've ever done in my life, all right? Because that night, the raccoon got in the house, all right? And here's how we know it got in the house. My wife wakes up, I don't know, 5 minutes before I do, and I hear her alarm. She goes into the bathroom. She comes running right back in, and she starts screaming, "It's in the house," all right? And here's how she knows it's in the house. First thing she saw, well, I'll tell you that second. Here's what made her come wake me up. We have his and hers sinks in our bathroom, and the raccoon took a shit just in her sink. All right, like we had caught the frat boy of raccoons. That was like, oh, you thought you had me, huh? You know what I mean? How about I leave you a Tootsie Roll? All right. here's the other reason why she knew it was in the house. She said to me, she's like, well, the first thing I noticed was there was muddy footprints all over the toilet, and I just thought you made a mess and didn't clean it up. like we've been married 15 years, and now I'm gonna spring I'm a shit sprayer on you? Like that. How could you think that of me? You know what I mean? These are the worst. So I jump out of bed, and I grab my bat, and my wife's like, "You gonna hit it grounders? What are you gonna do with the bat?" I was like, "Well, I don't want to shoot the kids, you know what I mean? So I'm not grabbing a gun, because the second I hear a board creak, I'm unloading this, you know, right?" So I'm bringing the bat. I think that's safer for the family. And the first 3 steps down the stairs, I was like, "Man, I hope I find this bitch. She's violated my house." All right. And then every step after that, I was like, "God, I hope she's gone. I really hope she's gone." And here's how we knew it was a woman. Like a week before this happened, my wife hears multiple screams and scratches and stuff. She's like, "Oh, I think they're fighting." I was like, "No, I think they're making more raccoons. This is becoming a whole thing. This sucks." All right. So I call coonskin hat guy back. Oh yeah, I searched the house. It was gone. All right. So I called coonskin hat guy. He's like, "Oh yeah, that was a mistake." I'm like, "You're an asshole. Of course I know it was a mistake." So I took the boarding off. He's like, "What you're gonna have to do, you're gonna have to wait it out. If there's a litter down there, you're gonna have to wait till she takes all the kids out." And I was like, "All right." I'm like, "You do understand I have a wild animal under my floorboards, and you're telling me to wait it out?" I'm like, "I know how to wait shit out, all right? I've been to a 4th grade violin recital, all right? You know what I mean? Like, I can wait shit out. It's the same noises, you know what I mean? All right? I don't know if I can do this. But I didn't listen to him before, so I was like, you know what, I better listen to him now. So I did that. And I had to set up a camera, and we had to watch this bitch come and go for a couple weeks, all right? Like she owned the place, and we were the ones that were a nuisance, all right? 3 or 4 different times, she like rubbed her ass on the camera, you know what I mean? She's like, "Oh, you remember when you thought you had me trapped?" All right? It was the worst. I was losing to a raccoon. So finally, she one morning, motion detector goes off. I see 3 little kits, or whatever they're called. I don't give a shit. Varmint. They leave, and then I see one coming out like weird sideways. I'm like, "Oh, what's wrong with this one?" All right. But then I realized it was the mom just taking it out. All right, it had it in its mouth. I'm like, "All right, that one's probably sucks." But they're all gone. All right. So I run out there and I board everything up. And as all the kids are leaving, my wife looks. She's like, "Oh my God, they are so cute." I'm like, "You know what? Then leave with them, all right? Because I'm done with this nightmare. This has been such a piece of shit." So crazy. Yeah, I do not miss the raccoons. All right. My wife got mad at me recently. We went to a wedding, all right, and I laughed during the vows, all right? And I'll tell you this, like I didn't like tee-hee-hee, like I burst out like an asshole, all right? So she's 100% in the right to be mad at this, all right? Here's what happened. The bride and groom wrote their own vows, all right? And the bride went first, so all the groom had to do was repeat after the bride. But he still somehow managed to mess that up too, all right? And then here's what happened. The bride said, "I'll always make sure to put you first," all right? And then the groom said, "I'll always make sure you come first." I laughed so hard. I was like, good luck keeping that promise, asshole. I don't think you have it in you. Else you'd have a hotter wife. Too far, okay. No problem. So dumb. I'll say just a couple things I'm going to do. I'm going to do a couple requests that people had given me before I wrap up. But I will say this. Make sure you take care of your wait staff. It is not an easy gig to wander around in the dark and bring people drinks. My first job in comedy was as a waitress, and it's not easy. Now, people laugh, but the sign said hiring waitresses, and I went in, and they're like, well, we're not going to change the title for you, princess. If you want the cake, you're going to take it. All right, so I did. I was like, I don't give a shit. And I was awful at it, you know, like, you would not believe how many trays of drinks ended up in laps, you know? And they haven't done that once tonight, all right? So that's pretty impressive. It's pretty cool. I know that if that's probably worth $5 on its own, you know, just an extra 5. Be like, you know what? I got dry pants. I'm gonna give you an extra 5. Plus, if you weren't supposed to tip, Jesus wouldn't have invented it. Well, we know that it's true. Some of you guys didn't get that far in your Bible, I guess. It's toward the back. I get it, but it's in there. At the Last Supper, Jesus said, you know what, guys, I'll cover dinner, but I'm going to need you to cover the tip. And it hadn't been invented yet, so they were very confused at the table. They're like, we don't get it. So he was a patient guy, and he explained it for like 14 minutes, and they still didn't get it. And that's why he looks like that in the picture. He's like, why don't they get it? For 14 minutes. I don't know if I even brought them up tonight, but I have 2 wonderful girls, Tegan and Eleanor. They're great. I love them. I love them unconditionally. I think the only people you can actually love unconditionally are your kids. And I was explaining that to my wife, and she wasn't loving it, you know what I mean? But I tried to explain to her. I was like, sweetie, I love you. I do. I think you're awesome. But I don't know if it's unconditional. I'm like, there's nothing our girls could do to make me stop loving them. There's nothing. I'm like, there's some stuff you could do to make me forget I ever liked you. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want that to happen, but it could, you know? Like, if I came home and the girls were burying bodies in the basement, I would help them bury the bodies in the basement. If I came home and you were burying bodies in the basement, I'd call 911 right away, all right? I'd take the girls to see you on Mother's Day, you know what I mean? Like, that would be how that worked. Having a couple drinks today, that always feels good. I don't drink as much as I used to, I'll say that. I had to cut back. But I started drinking way too early, you know? Like, I remember one day in high school, and that's it. You know what I mean? And there were a lot more days involved. I graduated, you know what I mean? So there's probably a few more. I know there's a lot of elevator guys here tonight. I appreciate you guys showing up. Thank you. I got a few elevator jokes that I'd like to end my time with. The whole time I've been working the 2 jobs, people have always asked me, like, oh, what do you like better? I'm like, I don't know. I love both jobs. I really do, you know? Like, one job, I get to drink a lot at, you know? and the other job I get to tell jokes. That's fun too. I don't know what's better. But on your way out, you might want to take the stairs. I'll tell you that. So I worked on these parking garage ones. I always love the conversation I have with people about elevators. Like, is there enough air in there? Like, yeah, it's not a submarine, you dickhead. There's plenty of air. It's not a sealed unit, you dumb shit. Oh, and so everybody knows the door close button doesn't work, all right? Door close doesn't work. Stop it. You're as likely to win the lottery as you are to have the door close button actually work. I always love when I'm replacing the door close button. I'm like, these people are dumb shits. I'm getting paid to replace a button that doesn't even work. This is so great. And yes, it has to work for the firemen, but not for people. I was at Hinsdale Hospital, and we get on at the top, and we got the local that day. It was just stopping at every floor. And there was a doctor who, every floor, just kept pressing the button, door closed, door closed. And I'm like, God, it doesn't work, you know? He's like, no, it makes a difference. I'm like, sure it does. What's your field of expertise? Because I don't ever want to get that sick, all right? You're a dumb shit. First rescue I ever had to go on. Woman was trapped in an elevator. I was able to get there pretty quick. The bar was right across the street. I get there and she's screaming. I'm like, ma'am, settle down. Get out of there. She's like, you have to hurry. I'm claustrophobic. I was like, all right, no, you're not. I'm like, a claustrophobic person wouldn't get in the elevator. I'm like, there's no way you would choose a small box over the stairs. Like, that's a 3-story building. You're lazy. You know what I mean? Like, that's for sure, but not claustrophobic. She screamed at me. And I was like, ma'am, don't scream. I don't know how much air is in there. When we were still at Otis, I worked a really long shift, and oh God, I'm sure everybody's had those days where you're just tired and you want to go home. And anybody's small talk, you're just like, oh, shut the fuck up. I don't want to talk to you. All right? But this particular day, I'm headed home, and I was like, oh, I just want to go home. All right? Worked about 12 hours. I didn't like it. So I'm headed home. I got my tools with me. I get on the elevator, and next floor down, a woman gets on. She's like, oh, I feel a lot better being on the elevator with the elevator guy. I was like, I don't know why that is. I go, this breaks. I'm stuck in here with you. You know? I'm like, I just do the riding in here. I do the fixing out there. You know, like I would help you scream. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna let you scream by yourself. That would be rude. But I can't fix anything in here. She was like, yeah? What about that door? She points at the ceiling. I'm like, this isn't a movie. You know. Like, those doors are there in every movie. They're not there in real life. I'm like, if this is a movie, you'd be hotter. You know, I totally All right. And for my last joke, I'll tell you this. when I was in high school, I started to use baby powder downstairs. I don't know if every guy knows what I'm talking about, but if you don't, try it to like today. It'll change your life. You'd be surprised how much more you smile when you're 10 degrees cooler downstairs all the time. You know, like it's so great. And it's $1. You can like improve your life for $1. Why wouldn't you do that? You know, it's so great. I don't make any money off this. You know, I'm just saying a little Johnson & Johnson on your Johnson goes a long way. It's so wonderful. Makes you smile. Here's what I learned though: if you use baby powder, men, you have to warn women. All right. I forgot about that. First time I took my wife to bed, she's like, "I know it's been a long time, Fritz, but why are they dusty?" You know, like. That's really gross, you know what I mean? Maybe you clean them up once in a while. Maybe you've gotten some. I'm like, whatever. I'm like, that's for special effects, you know? I could shake up my drawers. We got a fog machine right here in the room. How do you like that? Pretty sexy. Even better than that, guys, if the sex is bad, shake it up again, big puff of smoke like a ninja. You get the hell out of there. That's very nice. Shake up your drawers, scream ninja nuts, and run like hell. That's how it works. Ninja nuts. I wrote that whole bit just so I could say ninja nuts into a microphone. I was like, it sounds so fun. Also, to me, it sounds like a superhero. You know what I mean? Like he could fight crime and odor and wetness all at the same time. You know what I mean? He gets done saving the day. Saving the day. Everybody's like, "Thanks, Ninja Nuts." He's like, "No sweat." You know what I mean? You guys are so much fun. Thank you so much for coming out. I'll be out in the lobby if anybody wants to say hi. Thank you.
Hey, get back. Come here. Hey, Fritz Nothnagel, ladies and gentlemen. Fritz, come here. Fritz, come back up here for a second. Come here. Come on. One more. Take one more curtain call for him. Fritz Nothnagel. There he is. Come on.